Vishnu Gurudevo Maheshwara Gurureva Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Chinmayam Vyapyat Sarvam Trailokyam Sacharacharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Tvameva Mata Cha Pita Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha Tvameva Vedyad Ravinam Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. Jai Guru. Yata sarvani bhutani pratibhanti stithani cha yatraivo pashamam yanti tasmai satyatmane namaha. So where are we in our text?
We're in chapter 25 on number 9.
Chapter
which is on
25, number 9.
Which is page 258.
Please.
Jivascha kalanakara kenapyanyena jivati aho nyatam ayam jiva chidrupenaiva jivati. The individual soul, which is of the form of comprehension or cognition, subsists on some one different. It is known. This individual soul subsists only on pure consciousness.
Yes. So there's a ground of being, which is the substratum of the ego, of the sense of individuality. So I am, and then there's a fill in the blank. Man, woman, tall, short, good, bad, happy, sad. This is the superimposition that the mind places upon pure consciousness. Now, there is the reflection of consciousness, as Swamiji used to say, caught in the web of thought. So there is a sense of agency that is a function in the subtle intellect. So, did you go into work today or work from home?
Today, work from home.
You work from home. So it was Soundarya, who did this action, had these experiences, went here and went there. You had a different set of experiences.
Yes.
The problem is when I confuse that karta, that sense of agency, with myself. And I used to get all confused about this because I would be at a meal with Swamiji. That's where I remember it most vividly. And he'd say, "Pass me the chutney." Easy to identify. No. And there are Buddhists who say, this one is going to the store. You don't have to talk funny. That's not important. Another way to understand this, which I think is the most beautiful, is Shankara's image. Imagine there in Kerala on a warm evening with a full moon. He's in one of these Nambudri houses with a portico, and there are 6 great big huge jars of water. And if you look into the water jars with water in them, you see 6 moons. I think that's the real moon, meaning I haven't looked up to see what's in the sky. And then, of course, if you go like that to the water in the moon, or in the jar, oh, the moon is broken. Likewise, when the attentive faculty is focused at the equipment, the body, the feelings, the thought, and this karta, I think that's the self. And that's why I get neurotic and crazy. Because I'm trying to secure something that isn't solid or real. It's like the person who sees the broken moon in the jar is all upset. How am I going to fix the moon? What can a person do to fix the moon? Nothing. The moon's not touched. Just like if you look up in the sky, you see the real moon. There aren't 6 moons, there's only one. If you introvert the attentive faculty, go looking for this chaya, this shadow self, this chidabhasa, this reflected self. And it falls. What you find is chidakasha, the space of pure awareness. Don't believe me. Look. Now, this phony self, this jiva bhavana, it's not just a bunch of words going by in your head. It's very powerful. And in that way, it's much more like hypnotism, which again is just something that occurs to my mind. Any thoughts on this?
But there's also bodily reaction, like you're angry, then you can feel heat.
Certainly, because the body is just a grossified form of the mind. I was working with someone this past week, and he has social anxiety. And he says, oh, my mind is perfectly peaceful, but the contraction was just in my body. I think that's a cop out. For example, what was the body reaction you were talking about? Anger?
Yeah.
Okay, if you're sound asleep and he acts like a jerk, what does your body do?
Nothing. I don't know.
What? It's not in your body. If it were in your body and he acted like a jerk, your body would flop around. You have to be aware, conscious, have your mind going through the senses.
So it's the thought first.
They're not
Sort of,
separate. They're not separate. Of
Separate.
course, we have reactivity stored in the body. I'm not saying that we don't. But there's a subtle and gross form of the same thing. They're not separate.
Sometimes there's reactivity to the reactivity of the body.
Absolutely.
Right? So it's kind of makes it more intense than it is because you're resisting the feeling in some way.
And sometimes the reaction in the mind connected with the body is so instinctual and immediate. It's part of our lizard brain. Like when you're crossing the street and you're not paying too much attention, all of a sudden you hear screeching tires and a bang of cars having an accident. You just jump and all the adrenaline shoots through your body. Ever had that happen?
Yeah.
You know, it's so physical, but it's not just in my body. If I were lying in my bed, sound asleep, and there was an accident outside, nothing happening to my body. but it can be so fast. And many of the reactivities that we have in the mind are at the unconscious level. Let me give you a real live story. So, for many years, I was a performing musician, a singer. And I meditate, I do all this sort of stuff. And I would say to myself, I don't have performance anxiety. I'm going to be fine. And then flutter, 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 flutter. Then I have to run to the toilet. And I would just laugh and laugh and laugh because the body doesn't lie.
Right.
That's the other thing. We can fool ourselves, with talk. Oh, I'm not upset. I'm not frightened or anything. But the body doesn't lie. So, but it's hooked to the more of the unconscious rather than the conscious.
But in that situation, let's say you do have this feeling of anxiety, right? But if you don't resist it, then it's not a problem, right?
Of course. And you still may have diarrhea.
Right. So there's no suffering in that sense. There's just
It is what it is. Yeah. Each person figures this out for themselves. I don't want us to get caught up in languaging. Am I resisting or am I not resisting? Is it, direct experience, just, it's like riding a bicycle. You can talk about riding a bicycle till you're blue in the face, but you don't learn to ride a bicycle till you get on the bicycle. So you will know. You will know. But you're absolutely right. Yes, that's what I think the Buddhists call the second arrow.
mhm.
You have pain, the first arrow, and then I have the resistance or reactivity to the pain, the second arrow, where I resist.
Because that is that in parallel to this as well, like because there is this also this idealistic situation where I'm not going to feel any, discomfort or pain, and
Well,
so
I
like,
can only share with you out of my own experience. I've been doing this work for over 50 years. I do not have the kind of reactivity that I used to have, let alone secondary reactivity.
so even first arrow.
I don't even have a whole lot of that most of the time. But I also don't want us to say, oh, I'm going to use this teaching about first and second arrows to rationalize my continued reactivity.
Mhm.
Keep doing tapas.
Like pretending that you're not
Yeah.
bothered when you like.
Or I'm just bothered and I'm just going to be bothered. I'm angry, so I'll yell at you.
Mhm.
That's just bad manners.
Right.
But the yelling back is the second arrow, right?
I don't know. See, I don't know what you mean by it. You do. So that's what's important.
Sure.
You do. I like to stay with it's a spiritual axiom that if I'm disturbed,
Mhm.
first, second, or third arrow, who gives it? I'm the one with the clay shot. Us. But the point I wanted to get at with sound was to say that it's in my body and not in my mind is not true.
Mhm.
And what we want to see that the mind and the body are not separate. It's one organism. It's like an iceberg. There's a visible part of the body. There's a deep invisible part,
Right.
which is the mind. And the prana. So I like to say the 12-step people say act your way into right thinking. And the New Age metaphysicians say think your way into right acting. And what yoga says, yes,
Mhm.
because they're not separate. Is that useful?
Yeah.
All right. Next verse.
Idanim punariksheham kenaisaachit prachetyate aho nu chirakalena jnatam jneyam anamayam. I shall now see or reflect again by whom this pure consciousness is comprehended or perceived. Ah, after a long time indeed, that which is free from blemish and fit to be known has been known by me.
Yes, so again, this is an abridgment. And I think the later we get into the book, the more stuff the editors cut out. But the thing is here, what he's done is basically go through in just a few verses, which Shankara does exhaustively in the negation of the five koshas. And again, as I was saying earlier about this karta, this agent, this is a function that's lodged in the vijnana maya kosha. That's where Shankara locates it. I'm not the physical body. I'm not the prana. I'm not the manas, the mind, the manomaya kosha. I'm not the intellectual sheath, the vijnana maya kosha. With the karta, the sense of agency, I'm not even pure ignorance, anandamaya kosha. And then in Viveka Chudamani, the Shisha says, "Oh, Guruji, I've negated all of that. There's nothing left. By what agent then is the self to be realized?" And the Guru says, Swamiji uses the word clever. I'm not sure I would use that. Subtle are you in your capacity to discriminate. In a very clear, pure intellect, notice the self as that by which the five koshas are known, but itself is never known as an object. Yet it is not unknown. What is the pramana? What is the means of knowledge for the direct experience of the self? The self is its own means of knowledge. You do not see, hear, taste, touch, smell, emote, or think yourself, nor is it known by inference. I think, therefore I am, Descartes said. Quit thinking and see if you disappear. No. How do you know you are you? I don't know, but I know I'm me. Yes. The self is its own means of knowledge. But everybody already has that. The most miserable of creatures does not doubt their existence. So we need this pratyabhignana, this recognition in the subtle intellect, where the subtle intellect sees this is aparoksha jnana, direct experience. Oh, there's nothing there. Where did the ego go? Where did my sense of being a person go? It was there a minute ago. Well, it's gone. Instead, there's Chidakasha, birthless and changeless and deathless, supremely peaceful. Wonder of wonders. then if the personal sense of self tries to assert itself, what is the personal sense of self? In the subtle intellect. The subtle intellect tries to attribute to the self the qualities of the non-self. And the person of steady wisdom sees that's like saying, I'm a chair. It's obvious I'm not a chair. I'm sitting in a chair, but I'm not a chair. It's so obvious once you really see it. And then that Jiva Bhava can't really take root. It just falls. Ah, but such is the power of Maya. Again, you've heard me say this so many times. Back to Viveka Chudamani, verse 267. Quote, even after realization of the truth, there exists a strong impression that one is the doer and the enjoyer, which is the cause for rebirth, end quote. Meaning I get re-identified. Quote, it needs to be conscientiously rooted out through steady and continuous identification with the self. It is the annihilation of the vasanas here and now that's considered liberation by the wise, end quote. Pretty much. There it is.
Jim, would you mind saying the start of that one more time?
Even after realization of the truth, there exists a strong impression that one is the doer, an enjoyer, which is the cause for rebirth.
Okay.
This needs to be conscientiously rooted out through steady and continuous identification with the self. It is the annihilation of the vasanas here and now that is considered liberation by the wise. Shloka 267 in Shankara's Viveka Chudamani. It's really, really important. And then he has this long section on the annihilation of the vasanas. What are the vasanas? Vasana is an impression left in the unconscious as the result of previously performed egoistic actions. It goes back lifetimes. A vasana has two powers. Water and oil. What are the two powers?
The veiling.
And the projecting.
Yeah. What's the veiling power? In my mind, I forget that I'm the self. A non-apprehension of my essential nature. What happens after that?
Then
What's the second power?
and I start thinking this world is the real world.
Even more devastating, I start thinking I'm the body.
Okay.
But that and I think the world is real. They arise together. That's the projecting power, the Vikshepa Shakti. How do I know my mind is covered by vasana? Do I have a desire? No. In the end, desire is not an impediment to self-realization. If the desire is preceded by non-apprehension of myself, then I start taking the desire seriously. I'll be happy when, it'll be better if.
So if desire arises and it's just noticed and not taken seriously, that's you
I
can't.
can prove this to you.
Yeah.
So your mind's pretty tuned up.
Mhm.
You introvert your attention. Can you see that your essential nature is the witness?
Mhm.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Wouldn't you really like some goat cheese?
No,
What?
no,
No.
Mm.
Chocolate?
no,
You don't want anything?
no.
You're doing good. But you want to go pee.
Yes.
Okay. But you don't lose your self-knowledge because you
Right.
want to go pee.
Right. Right. God. Oh wow, that's amazing.
You see?
Yeah. Wow. Wow.
Now, if on the other hand, Lloyd pokes at you and you want to smack his ass, and that's really serious. And then you go, oh, I don't want to be like that. I don't want to be like that. Because what? Yeah. It's all based on thinking Wendy's real.
Right. Beautiful.
Now, another exercise.
Okay.
So keep your mind tuned up and very empty. Gobbledygookty, fripty, fropty, poopty bowl. Do you know what I said?
No.
It's gibberish. You just let it pass through. You're so wonderful. I love you very much. And you're cooking. Oh my God. Drop it. You see what I'm doing?
Absolutely.
Now, what a jerk you are. I mean, and you're fooling yourself about everything. And not only that, you lie to everybody and you lie to yourself. And you're ugly. All three statements are lies. Look at the self.
Yeah.
Is yourself a good cook?
No.
Is yourself a gnarly woman?
No.
What is yourself?
We're empty. Like sky.
The nectar of knowledge, homogeneous existence like the sky. You get it?
I get it.
So let it all sensory data pass through. Now, I've said this so many times, the place where we get identified is almost always on the positive side of the teeter-totter. You're so wonderful. Am I really? Once I'm identified, when, not if, the opposite idea comes, I'm already got the hook in my mouth. It's too late then. No, I am Brahman, I am Brahman. You know, it's hard at that point. Making sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
You've seen me do this. Oh, Jim, that was such a good class. What do I usually do? Don't I?
Yeah.
I'm not going to believe that shit. You know, that's dangerous stuff.
Jim, I have a question.
Yes.
So, coming back to verse 267, the, our path is leading, is it the goal liberation? Is the goal self-realization? Or is the
Yes.
self-realization is the, the gate on the way to liberation?
They are the same thing.
But this verse doesn't make them sound the same, right? Because like, it could be self-realization, but you still have a bunch of vasanas you have to work through for full
When he
liberation.
says, even after realization of the self, this is when I've had some insight into my essential nature, but
Oh.
I'm not yet what Gita would call stita prajna. I don't have continuous steady wisdom.
Clear. Thank you.
Yes, good question. Good question.
It's how you describe, when we go to like a 10-day retreat, we can get emptied out, have some experiences.
Yeah.
Yes, but then we come back to the real world and we start
And
absorbing things again.
the reason the 10-day retreat can work is we are separated from the things that trigger our vasanas.
Yes, a lot of them.
You come
No-
back to the world, and sometimes it even happens on the retreat. I had this dear friend, and he was just convinced that there was this person working in the kitchen and they were trying to seduce him.
I had a teacher trigger me in the retreat.
Oh, yeah.
You had a teacher?
Yeah, I went to the teacher for some empathy and she just poked.
Yeah.
Gave me some tough love. It got me okay.
Empathy, schmempathy.
I feel like I mostly just trigger myself. My thoughts trigger me.
Well, the
That's
truth is we always trigger ourselves. Nobody has the power to make me feel anything, ever. I buy into it. It's my klesha. Always. And that's axiomatic.
Yes.
All right, going on.
एते हि चिद्विलासान्ता मनोबुद्धीन्द्रियादयः असन्तः सर्व एवाहो अवधानं विनोत्थिता. Surely these entities beginning with the organs of sense, mind, and intellect, and ending with the flash of consciousness or the individual soul, are all only non-existent and have risen without attention. It is a wonder.
Yes. So for those of you who've gone on 10-day retreats, Vipassana retreats, and you may have had this experience of no self. There's just the direct perception of phenomena. And then self comes back. Do you not see it go away and come back? Am I making sense?
Yeah.
Therefore, what went away and what came back is an object of cognition. Not you. It's that flash, is what he was saying. You go nowhere. Did you have a question, Atik?
Yeah, more of a comment. So is that why, kind of we lose this object, the sense of self? I noticed that after the 10-day retreat, they let you start talking in the 10th day. It's really hard. It's easier for me to think about what I'm going to say, but it's very hard to talk and communicate for the first few hours. Is that again
Well,
like
talking in general is stupid.
Okay.
And most of it's unnecessary.
That's true.
That's why on these retreats we practice maunam, silence. All right, going on.
Mahachit ekaivastahi nirahankaranupini sakrit vibhata vimala nityoda yavati sada sa brahma paramatma di namabhi parigiyate. The one great pure consciousness alone exists here. It is of the nature of absence of ego. This stainless consciousness, once manifested, is always appearing invariably. It is described by the names Brahman or the Supreme Spirit, Paramatman or the Supreme Self, and the like.
Yes. So once you really grasp it's myself, that I am conscious, sentient being. Well, actually, I am the conscious, sentient being. It's myself. When are you ever not you? Whatever the sense perceptions, by whom are they? No, me. Whatever mind state I'm in. Oh, my mind was just a mess today. Who knew it? I did. Oh, I was so quiet, blissful. Who knew it? I did. What's the common factor that never, ever, ever ceases to be? I. Once you get that, you grasp it, you can't lose it. Ramana Maharshi says, it's like once you know that you have a human body, you never doubt that you're a goat or a cow or a horse or a pig. And it's nothing you have to keep asserting. I am human, I am human, I am human. You don't need to walk around with a mirror to make sure you have a human face. You're involved in doing work, you go, oh, I forgot I was human. Nobody. It's always your swabhava. So also for the stita prajna purusha, person of steady wisdom. It's yourself. When they say self-realization, it is literal. What is it that gets realized? My stupid mind. Ah, but such is the power of Maya. The most present, obvious, constant, eternal factor of existence. I am I. Yet, vast majority of people run around and they don't know that. I am not witnessing consciousness. I'm the body. Not only that, I think all those bodies are pretty darn real. Let me rub up against you. Or not. Next one.
Dinanudinam ityesha swatma ramataya tatha paramatma paramatma mahalabha paripurnantaratmana swavikedhana nabhyasha vashat atmodayena sa शुशुभे शोभना तत्र चूडाला पूर्व शोभया. Day after day, this Chudala investigated thus. Because of the state of delight in her own self and the rise of self-knowledge on account of her intense practice of discrimination, with her inmost self or heart fulfilled by the great acquisition of the Supreme Self, she shone splendidly there with extraordinary beauty.
So this process is taking place in the story of Chudala. Remember, she's the queen and she's got this husband, Sikadvaja, and she does very fruitful sadhana. And so she not only knows I am always Brahman, but she is seeing that it's what I call the cosmic teeter-totter. The more complete my renunciation, meaning my detachment, the greater my bliss. The more concerned, worried, attached to the world I am, it dims. You choose. So she's able to revel in the self. That wonderful term of Vidyaranya, Brahmananda Rasa Swada. She can taste the juice of the bliss of Brahman. But, dear husband, nice guy. You know, guys are. Got a mind like a rake. Watching football all day. Didn't eat potato chips and salsa, you know. Guys, you know how they are going on.
Tam alokya tada raja vismito vyajaharaha bhuyo yauvana yukteva rajase nitaram priye gambhiram cha prashantam cha chetapashyami te priye. Then the king, who was astonished, having seen her thus, told her, Beloved, you shine exceedingly as if you are endowed with youth again. I see your mind deep and calm.
So, who we are speaks much louder than what we say. Or as St. Francis said, which I've said many times, wherever you go, preach the gospel, and if you must, use words. Or your experience when you went back to India and saw your school chums after many years. And they went, what's happened to you? Wasn't that your experience?
Mhm.
Yes?
Yeah.
And you probably didn't know you'd changed that much, did you? Oftentimes other people see it before we do. So he sees this transformation in his wife. Let's see what happens.
Chudalovacha idam sarvam parityajya sarvam anyat maya shritam yattat satyam asatyam cha tenasmin shrimati sthita. Having given up all this that is worldly, Chudala said, having given up all this that is worldly thoughts and experiences, another entity, which is everything or the whole, has been resorted to by me. It is that which is truth or reality, as well as untruth or unreality. Because of that, I am beautiful.
Yes. So you look at Bhagwan Ramana Maharshi's face. We hear stories about like Paramahansa Yogananda, whose body was incorruptible. He didn't decay after he died. Not with every saint, but for many of them. So what has she done? Going back, Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, verse 55. When a person casts off all the cravings of the mind and heart, first part. And is satisfied in the self, by the self. And they're said to be a person of steady wisdom. There's the sum total of yoga. You can't do this. Or I want to hang on to my desires and be blissful. One or the other. Take your pick. Going on.
न हृष्यामि न कुप्यामि तेनाहं श्रीमती स्थिता एकैवाकाशसङ्काशे केवले हृदये रमे सदात्मन्येव तुष्यामि तेनाहं श्रीमती स्थिता. I do not exult, nor am I angry. Because of that, I am beautiful. I rejoice in the pure heart of the inmost being, resembling the sky, quite alone. I always delight only in the self. Because of that, I am beautiful.
Yes. Notice she's an old lady. And yet she's become beautiful. And there's photos of Anandamayi Ma when she was quite old. All her teeth had fallen out. But the joy permeated mother is what her name meant. The bliss permeated mother. Now, this is not for, oh, my max factor isn't working, I'm going to try yoga. It's not what it's for. But it is a result of practice. Why? Because what distorts our countenance to a huge degree is all of our selfishness, our fear, our anger. And when we're at peace, our faces show it. Going on.
Abudva tadgiram artham vihasyotthaya bhupati asambadha pralapoyam iti nishchittavan tada. The king, not having understood the meaning of her words, smiling and getting up then, decided that her utterance was incoherent prattle.
Yes, he's a mere woman. You know how they are. She's hysterical. You know what hysteria, its original meaning was?
Yeah, it's something to do with
A wandering womb. They thought the woman's uterus would move around in her body, and that's what made her. Ah! So this is transcultural to some degree. And what I love about this story, he's a jock. And she's incredibly wise. And he can't see it. Sometimes it's the opposite. It's the man who's very wise, the woman who can't see it. Not. Going on.
Kashtam natmani vishranto madvachoyam na buddhavan iti khinna cha chudala swavyapara parabhavat. Alas, this one has not reposed in the self and has not understood my words. Thus dejected, Chudala became engrossed in her work.
Yes. So She obviously had no need of going to Al-Anon or Coda. She sees that he is not interested, doesn't have the sattvic temperament, and rather than trying to fix him or beat him over the head with it, what does she do? She goes about her work. We cannot do other people's yoga.
Did you say Al-Anon? Is that like a psych?
Al-Anon is for people who have an alcoholic or an addict in the family. And one of the pathologies of an Al-Anon is I think I can fix it. I can rescue the person who's the addict or alcoholic, or the codependent who's always trying to fix or change other people.
Mm.
We may know people like that. We may be people like that. Was that clear?
Mhm.
But she doesn't have that. She's, disappointed that he's in ignorance. She has genuine sorrow at his misfortune. But then she lets go and does her work, leaves him up to God. Going on.
Section 2. Kundalini. Kundalini, the potential bioenergy in living beings. Ekada nityatritpaya nirichhaya api swayam chudalaya babhuvecha yakasha shagama dishu. Once there arose a desire in Chudala, who was ever content and free from longings for accomplishments like moving in the sky.
So this is just wonderful. So notice in the Sanskrit, and they've done it in the English too, there's the passive voice. It does not say once she desired to acquire siddhis. Doesn't say that. It said there arose in her spontaneously. Now, part of this is a literary device. But for the man or woman of knowledge, an intuition to do this or to do that will arise. Now, I say this so frequently, but I'm going to repeat it. In order to be able to trust the intuition when the desire to do this or do that arises, we first must attain to Yoga Rudha. Yoga Rudha, to mount the steed of the mind, meaning I have to silence the loud voices. I must have it this way. I'll never put up with it that way. Raga, Dvesha. Those must be silenced. We have to come to a place of samadrishta, equality of vision. I'm willing for it to be however it is. Back to your idea of reacting to the reacting. So you have some physical condition. I don't want it to be this way. I do. Am I willing for it to be like this for the rest of eternity? Yeah. I'm not saying you have to like it. Can you accept it? Now, do I have some intuition as to what's right action? This is subtle stuff. Any thoughts on this?
Since we are unaware of what's going on in the unconscious, It seems like when the mind is very quiet, intuition is more available.
Absolutely.
And yet we don't know what the unconscious is, what the part of the unconscious is playing.
Well, one of the side effects of long and continuous meditation is it makes the unconscious conscious.
So we start knowing more and more.
We are more honest.
Yeah.
The denial mechanism starts to fall down. Let me give you a true story. I was talking with someone who considered himself a pretty astute Buddhist practitioner. He read a lot, and he did his first 10-day retreat. Well, he hadn't told me that he had a little bit of a thing with sticky fingers. He shoplifted. And he rationalized and justified it or denied what a defilement that was. And in the 10-day retreat, he found that it was intolerable. He came back. The first thing he did is he had to go to all the places and pay for what he'd taken or return it, etc. That interesting. But it was the meditation retreat that allowed his lack of integrity, the cognitive dissonance to arise. Making sense?
Absolutely. I've had that happen many times. Yeah.
And it's not just with something, it can be like any kind of behavior that's clearly adharmic. Any thoughts?
Yeah, Jim, I have a question. So then what you're sharing is intuition is just this natural, unconscious becoming more conscious, and we're able to subtly more discern between those two. So then intuition does not form from a vasana?
Does intuition form from vasana? Sometimes it's what we call roasted vasanas. They do not have the power to bind us, but also what it can be is the will of God. So we can talk offline more on this.
Okay.
I don't want to get too caught up in it.
No, thank you. What you said is very helpful. Yeah, I'll give you a call later. Thank you.
Okay, going on. So again, part of this is a literary device because she's going to do some shape-shifting here. Going on.
Tadartham sarvabhogan sa satyaja nirjane sthale urdhva gava gava urdhvag prana pavanam chirabhyasam chakaraha. For that purpose, she did the long practice of controlling the upgoing vital air in an uninhabited place, having renounced all enjoyments.
So the way to acquire siddhis in the Raja Yoga tradition is done through kriyas. Kriya means yoga in action. It's karma is a completed action. A kriya is yoga in action. So most of these involve control of the breath, visualizations, and it's all part of the in-depth study of Raja Yoga. And this is how these yogis acquire siddhis. Siddhis means accomplishments, like flying through the air, being able to walk through walls, being able to read people's minds, things like that. So she does the pranayama, she does the kriyas that will help her acquire siddhis. Not because they're going to make her powerful, not because she's a better yogi if she does this. You got to do something with your time. So this is what she does. Going on.
Chudalaya kathayam cha prasangapatitam iman pranadipavanabhyasa kriyam siddhi phalam shrinu. Hear this teaching about the practice of controlling prana and other vital airs productive of superhuman powers or faculties, which has occurred in the topic of Chudala's story.
So now we have a little bit of a parenthetical section about the acquisition of siddhis going on. And he uses the same word I was talking about, these kriyas going on.
Bhojana sanushuddhaya cha sadhu shastrartha bhavanat bhogatyagat cha kopadi tyagat sajjana sevanat pranayama dhana bhasat bhrisham yanti vidheyatam prana prabhutvat tajjasya punso bhritya ivakhilaha. By the purity of food and dwelling, by proper contemplation or investigation of the meaning of the scriptures, by the renunciation of enjoyments, by giving up anger and the like, by serving virtuous people, and by the intense or uninterrupted practice of pranayama or the control of the vital airs, the vital energies become exceedingly obedient to one familiar with them, on account of his mastery of the techniques of controlling them, just as all the servants of a man do.
Yes, so through these practices, many of which parallel jnana yoga, the Raja Yogi can gain control over the flow of prana in the body. Prana is not breath. Prana is vital energy, bioenergy, but it can be controlled through breath control. Now, you don't have to necessarily be acquiring all these fancy schmancy siddhis. You can do simply some simple pranayama, which will increase your physical well-being and extend life. It's good stuff. And one of the gems of this text is it gives equal weight to Raja Yoga and Jnana Yoga. My friend D.C. Rao, I adore this man. And I think he's now in his 90s. And he still goes marching off to India and hiking through the Himalayas and stuff like that. I'm not making this up. He looks like he's about 60. But he not only is a very serious Vedantin, but he hangs out at the Himalayan Institute in Pennsylvania and he does Raja Yoga, does his asana, and he does his pranayama. Very, very healthy dude. If the desire for it arises in you. And that doesn't mean you're not going to do a whole lot of pranayama and then all of a sudden get cancer and die. No guarantees. This is largely more of a literary device than anything else. So, going on.
Rajyadi moksha paryanta samasta eva sampadah teha nila vidheyatvat sadhya sarvasya raghava. Raghava. Quiet all the accomplishments or blessings from a kingdom to liberation in the spirit are attainable by everybody through the obedience of the vital airs in the body, that is, through the proper control of bioenergy.
Yes. So all things can be accomplished by the mastery of the vital energy. Now, let me push back on the text a bit by quoting Swami Tapovanam, who was Chinmaya's Jnana Guru. And he says, oh, so you want to fly through the air? A bird can do that. You want to stand on one leg for hours and hours and hours and hours? A tree can do that. You want to sit in meditation unmoving for hours and hours and hours, days? A stone can do that. Never forget, there's one Mahasiddhi, one great power accomplishment, and that is peace of mind. For the person who has peace of mind, there's no need for these other things. Without peace of mind, you can have the faith to move mountains, and you're still jonesing. All right, one more.
कीटा दिश्वपि सर्वेषु मर्मस्थानं समाश्रिता भोगिवत् मण्डलाकार सर्वदा स्पन्दरूपिणी पावनी परमाशक्ति पवमानेन तिष्ठति. In all beings, even in worms and the like, resorting to the vital part of the body, there abides, along with the vital air or bioenergy, a pure or purifying power, coiled in the form like a snake and always vibratory in nature.
So now he's going to talk about Kundalini, the snake that's coiled at the base of the spine, and the Muladhara chakra, the root chakra. And we'll get into that next week. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Sri Guru Namaha. Hari Om. Om Tat Sat.